Good afternoon. My name is Ben Roll. I am an application engineer here at Ally PLM Solutions. I want to welcome all of you to this month's session of Lunch Bytes. For those of you that don't know, we hold these sessions once a month. They're designed to explore the capabilities and features inside of Solid Edge that might be overlooked and some of you might not be familiar with. We want these sessions to be informative and helpful for you. So if you have any suggestions of topics that you would like covered in the future, feel free to send us an email with those suggestions. If you have any questions during the presentation today, you can write those down and send them to an email. Send them in an email, and we'll get the answers to you. Like I said, today's session is on parts list. So we're going to go ahead and hop into Solid Edge. So the first thing we're going to look at is the aspect ratio. With some of the changes to Solid Edge, the first one is bullets and numbering. So the way it works is similar to how you would do it in Word. You can come in, set bullets, you can set numbering. So maybe we want to do uppercase Roman numerals. You'll see it'll place all those in there. Same thing you can do in Word is you can come in here and you can restart the numbering. So those are just some enhancements that are available kind of in text boxes, so they're not 100% in the parts list, but they're things that not everyone knows about. The same thing, you can come in to a text box and change font in the middle of the box. So you could come in and change the color if you want. So we could change it to red. We could change this to green. We can come in and change the font to whatever we want. So you can have different font, different color, all inside of the same text box. So now we'll go ahead and get into more of the parts list. So what we're going to do is come in and create a parts list for this blower. And we have it set to auto balloon. And we're going to come into some of the options. So the first option we're going to look at has to do with the location tab in the properties. So we have one of the choices here is the anchor corner. So if I get out of that, you'll see how the list is tied to my mouse at the upper left corner. So I can go into properties and I can change it to bottom right if I want, and you'll see it changes where it anchors it to. What we want to look at is the location for the parts list. So this is a really handy tool if you have a long parts list where you don't want it on the same sheet as your drawing that you're ballooning from. So we can tell it that we want to create a new sheet for the parts list table. And we're going to come in here. You can select what you want the type of sheet to be. If you want it to be an A1, A2, A3, you can select the size that way. Or we have one for bill of materials. So I'm just going to go ahead and select those. And I'm going to go ahead and tell it that I want to show the sheet backgrounds on those sheets, and I want to maintain the sheets with the table size. I can come in here and enter a position for the origin if I want. The other option we have is in here we can tell it to fill the end of the table with blank rows, and we can tell it to wrap the table data cells to a new row. So what the fill in with blank rows, you'll see that in a second. When I place the list, and I want to do it with the new table style, so you'll notice the list is no longer tied to my cursor because it's going to put it on the new page. So all I have to do is click, and you'll see it automatically balloons all the parts, and it adds new sheets to table 1, page 1, table 1, page 2. So I can then go in there, and you'll see it fit the sheet size to the size of the table. So if I zoom in on that, you'll see it lists all the parts, item number, document number, quantity. And if I go to the second table, because I had that option turned on, I turned that on to fill in with blank spaces. Now there are blank spaces on this, so if you have to afterwards go in and add non-graphical parts like paint or oil to your parts list for the assembly, you can do that and just fill in these boxes here without having to go in and edit and make a new parts list. So we also have a couple options with the balloons. You'll notice right now they have the number up top, and then they have another number underneath. That is the quantity. So you'll see there are 2 of part 15 here. So you can turn those off if you want. You can turn off the item count. You notice that you got rid of the number underneath. So I can come in. Did not mean to grab that one. Obviously you can rearrange them if they happen to cross over each other, but as you can see, when they come in, they're very clean. You really don't have to rearrange them at all. You can if you want. So if I go ahead and take the item count out from a few of these, you'll notice they get a lot smaller. Well, if you want them bigger, all you have to do is select them, and then here is your text scale. So I can make that 2 times, and you see now it's a whole lot easier to read. So those are some of the modifications that you can do with the balloons. Obviously you can add a break line if you want, and that'll give you a little bit more control over how it shows up. If you come into the properties for the balloon, you can change the balloon shape to whatever you want. You know, you can add your prefix, your suffix if you want, all those things. So that is kind of how you can put the table on a different sheet. So now what we'll do, and just to make this a little bit easier to see, we'll go ahead and we'll delete those balloons, and we'll go ahead and make another parts list. And actually, I'll just go ahead and turn off auto balloon because we don't really need that to show this. So in the parts list property, obviously we have these saved settings, so you can set up whatever setting you want. Like we had one set up for new table, which I was able to access from this drop down. You can pick your saved settings there. That saves you some time. We have an option for the maximum number of the data rows. So if I come into that, and let's say on the first page I want to only have 20, then if I hit OK, you'll notice it increased the size of the box for the parts list. And just to make it a little easier to see, I'll go ahead and put it here off of the paper. So if I come into that, you'll notice it went 1 through 20, and then it moved the rest of them over to the next page. So that's how you can kind of break that up to get it to fit on your sheet. So maybe you needed that up there and maybe your drawing was down here a little bit and you had something over here that you didn't want to cover up with your parts list. You can kind of manipulate that. And then obviously you can grab that and move it over if you want. If we come into the options again, I already showed the location thing. With the title, there have been some enhancements where now you can have multiple titles. So I'll go ahead and add the first title, and we'll just say this is SE Parts List Lunch Byte. And we'll go ahead and make that, say, 5 millimeters. We'll underline it. And then I can add a new title. And we'll say this is the blower.asm. And we can go ahead and underline that too. You can change the alignment if you want. Go ahead and move this over. Hit apply, and just to zoom in, make it a little bit easier to see. You can add whatever titles you want. You also now have the ability with the data to overwrite the cells. So you can see for any of these, all we have to do is come in here, right click, and say allow cell overrides. I don't know if you can tell over the web, but now that box that I was in is white instead of gray, and that means that now I can come in there and double click and type in it. So obviously I don't have these called out, so I don't know exactly which part it is, but in here, if you wanted to change the title, or in this case, it doesn't have a title, you can come in here and say, maybe this is the top of the chute. Hit OK, and it adds it in. Same thing, if you come in here, and you're anywhere in here, if you hit enter, it'll move down, so it works just like Excel. Shift enter will move up, tab will move over, shift tab will move backwards. So it's a lot easier to navigate than it used to be. You can obviously change the font of any of these. So if I come in here, and we'll come down to one of these, say allow cell overrides, and maybe we'll change it to let's see, that, and obviously I can adjust it so that it all fits. Just by grabbing the point, and you can adjust how wide the different columns are. You also have the option to come in here and say copy contents, go right into Excel, and you can just paste your parts list just like that into Excel so that you can access it and save it out and send that if you need to. So that's an easy way to get your parts list information out of the drawing itself. We also have in the properties the columns that you can change. So you have a lot of options here as far as other columns that you can add in. So you could put in your yield stress, volume, ultimate stress, Quantity we already have in, all sorts of things, mass if you want. We already have item number to put in the file size. All you have to do is find which one you want. Say add column, apply, and it adds that in. You can also fix the header row height. You can merge with the next horizontal cell. So if you have mass in there twice, maybe you have mass item and mass quantity, you could come in, add both of those, change that to 2 rows, change that to mass. Here you could say item. Same with this, 2 rows. Change that to quantity. And then all you'd have to do is merge with the next horizontal cell. And then you can see we now have mass up here at the top, and then underneath we have item and quantity. So you have a lot of options as far as customizing it that way. We also have the option to merge vertical cells with the same value. So you can turn that on, and you'll see I was still in mass. So all the masses that are 0 got merged together into one row. So now it's all in there. That way you don't have it repeating. You can do that with quantity. So if I come to quantity, say merge the vertical cells, see now instead of having 1 at all those, it merged them all together. So it's a little bit condensed, easier to read. Next, we'll look at list control. So for that, we will switch over to another drawing file. So for this drawing file, we'll go ahead, we'll put in the parts list, and we'll go into our properties, and under list control we can set a configuration that we want to use. So if we come into the frame, it'll just put out a parts list for that configuration that you have set up. And if I come into that, you can see I have top level list turned on. So that means it's just going to put in this one subassembly. But if I turn on the atomic list and place that, it will list all of the parts in that subassembly, that, or well, whatever the configuration shows. If it just shows one subassembly or whatever, it'll show all the parts that are in there instead of just the top level subassembly. If I actually delete that and do it so that it automatically balloons, same thing, we'll do atomic list, and you can see when I clicked on that, that's going to list every single part in the overall assembly. It won't just list the subassemblies. So if I go back into my configuration and place that, you can see it just balloons the parts that are part of that frame configuration. So that's how you can use the configuration to control the list of what you want to call out. Just going back over, making sure I did not miss anything. And it doesn't look like I did. So that's kind of the general overview of all the things that you can do inside of the parts list with Solid Edge. It's really user-friendly. It's got a lot of freedom to do whatever you need to for your parts list. So if there's anything that we didn't cover that you need to know how to do, go ahead and email us and let us know, and we'll tell you how to do it. We'll jump back to the slideshow. I want to thank everyone for your time today. Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to contact us. Same thing if you have any suggestions for what you would like to see covered in the Lunch Bytes in the future. Same thing, email us and let us know. We have replays of all of our Lunch Bytes up on our website and out on YouTube. So if you just go to our website, you can go to our Lunch Byte replays for the NX Lunch Bytes and the Solid Edge Lunch Bytes. If you have a smartphone, there's one of those barcodes down there in the corner. So all you have to do is scan that barcode, and it will take you right to the replays at our website. Once again, I'd like to thank all of you for your time this afternoon. If you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to contact us. Thank you.